Welcome to another edition of the Wondery Podcast.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Dave.
And you can find us online at wonderberry.com.
You can find me on YouTube at Open Darkwing.
And you can find me, I don't know, on our TikTok and our YouTube. I'm managing the shorts all over the place.
Yeah.
Who likes shorts?
Actually, I know we talked about waiting to talk about that, but let's talk about that.
That's not our tagline. That's somebody else's. Shit.
You know what's funny? When I was going back through, and I've been watching a lot of stuff on, like, ideas and tips for growth on social media and starting off something new, because I want to try to throw in some lessons learned for the gardening channel that me and the wife are starting.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big things that I come across all the time is find a few creators that you really, really like, that you want to emulate. And, don't like knock off all their stuff word for word, but it's okay to emulate people and then find your own voice from there.
Dave,
and I was
the biggest lesson is you don't have enough land and you should buy the place right next to me.
Yeah, I know. But
Sorry.
I was thinking about that. I was like, thinking back to when we first started this thing, however many years ago that is now. What, 5-6 years ago? When did we when was our first episode? Man, now I'm gonna think about it. Okay, hang on.
Here,
Anyway.
you talk and I'll look it up.
Okay. So however long ago that we came up with this crazy idea of having our podcast, our initial idea and want was to completely emulate what Rhett and Link do on Good Mythical Morning. That was kind of our foundation of two guys coming together, talking about stuff. Kind of, I think one of our original iterations was more of like a wacky and wild type of a thing. And we've kind of settled into just two dads talking about life, but we started off, that was kind of our inspiration, was two guys at a table talking about stuff, which is why our earlier stuff had it was, our faces, our heads, or whatever. We were just talking. Yes, we were in different places, but when we had the opportunity, we kind of got together and it kind of evolved from there. But that was our original thought process and emulation, was those guys. And when you said, that's not us, that it reminded me of that whole thing. We started off wanting to be Rhett and Link, and
that was our inspiration.
That was 100% our inspiration, and we've kind of deviated hard left from there, but it's still kind of cool to think about and see that and go, you know what? This is kind of awesome.
Well, we never really did stuff like what they do, other than it was
we talked about it.
Yeah.
We had I don't think we have it written down anymore, but we had a doc at one point where we were coming up with some craziest of the ideas to go full emulation of eating different things, testing different stuff out. Like it was heavy leaned into it, and then it just turned into a tech and space podcast, and now it's just kind of a dad podcast.
It's a dad cast.
We've gone through
two dads,
iterations. 2 dads, 1 cast. Oh, that reminds me of one of the funniest domains that I've ever bought.
So
yes, I every once in a while I just buy random domains. But this domain, it was like a one-off conversation I had 4 or 5 years ago with someone, and it ended up buying 2girls1cupcake.com. And I figured that if there's ever a podcast or the wife wants to do something with another friend or a girl or something else, that would be the perfect absolute name for it. And I've already got the domain.
They do a strictly baking show.
Oh no, it would have nothing to do with baking. It's just
so here's
funny.
Our intro episode, which wasn't an episode per se, it was us doing the setup of the feed. So it's like a test audio that we put up just to make sure that we got all the feed set up, all that stuff.
Yeah.
December 12th, 2016.
Jesus.
The first episode was January 8th, 2017.
You know what would be fun for a live stream / just kind of a video to throw up there at some point? Would be going back through and react watching like our first stuff and talking about it. Where do you have the that stuff? The 2016. Did you just have it like in a folder somewhere?
That is on wonderberry.com.
Oh, because the YouTube starts off with the podcast number 1 to Boldly Go.
Yeah, and but we didn't launch the YouTube until like the 3rd episode. So the first few episodes are all the same date.
Oh, yeah, you're right. They are. The first 3 episodes are the same date.
Yep. Yeah, I just looked at that, Dave. So I had to go to the website, and I was like, "Oh God, I hope I put all those in right." Because we updated the website when we came back. We came back hard with a new website and everything. Whole new structure.
Kept all that other shit in.
Yeah, I kept all the old episodes are there. You can go back and listen. You can go back and watch on the YouTube. Everything's still there. I kept all the dates, all the descriptions and everything.
Yeah. No, that's I'm glad you did. Yeah, I'd like to go. I think that'd be kind of fun to go back and re-listen to all that old shit. And just kind of react.
Wonderberry reacts.
Well, it's also going to be, especially on my end, it would be kind of fascinating to go back and see how much my audio quality and video quality and all just quality in general has gone up.
Well, we talked about that before. It was like how we experimented a lot. Especially me, because I had so much gear. It was like, well, I wonder if this will work better. And it wasn't like I tested things before going into an episode. You know, I would go upstairs and I'd be like, well, I wonder how this will sound here. Like, I wonder what this will sound like if this is here and hooked up like this way instead of how I did it last week, which it, you know, and it was like, okay, so that sounds kind of better. Maybe I'll emulate that next week, or maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll try this, you know. Each week for me was like another, oh, I wonder how this sounds. But it wasn't like I really kept track or kept notes of how things sounded.
No, but we do kind of have kind of a timeline, and then I have the same timeline. Well, I'm missing a whole chunk because I made a mistake and did not download or save all my old Twitch VODs. The VODs from Twitch. So I'm missing years of content of me going through that transition with mics and cameras and overlays and all that stuff that I was doing on Twitch. I have some old stuff that I did save, like when I went through and played Zelda for the first time on Super Nintendo, because I didn't have a Nintendo growing up. So I was able to stream playing Link to the Past for the very first time. And I did save those VODs. So I have some older stuff, but the podcast is really the only thing that I have for my progression through any sort of a tech in any of this.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to kind of, I haven't really gone on a deep dive back, but I'm looking at my desk right now of all the stuff that I have gear wise and knowing like how much has changed and so much stuff that I use for other things, but also for this that I've just kind of incorporated in, like I added in the last week, even since we last podcasted from last week, I've added 3 new pieces to my whole getup. I've got 2 new headphones, and I gotta say, these hybrid open closed, they're not as airy as open, but holy cow, are they amazing! Like I was not expecting them to be this good. But I ran into a small problem when I was testing. I was like, man, I'm struggling to get any sort of like really heavy sound out of them. I should buy a headphone amp. So I have a Pulson 4-channel reference headphone amp that runs out. And oh boy, did that make all the difference in the world. All the difference. Like it's kind of amazing. And now I'm running into a new problem where the AKG cables that come with for the headphones, there's 4 cables and 3 of them give me some sort of a buzz noise while 1 does not. So I don't know what to do about that just yet. The coiled one gives me a slight buzz, more so on the 371s than on the 240s. The short cable gives no buzz noise on either headphone, so it's not the headphone. And then there's 2 longer ones, and both of those give a slight buzz. So 3 of my 4 cables have kind of a buzz. It's not really noticeable unless it's quiet or there's no other sound going on. It's not like it's flooding over. But as I start doing more and more deeper editing, I'm not going to want to have any buzz whatsoever.
Take them around into different areas in your house too. Try them with different devices and in different areas, because maybe you have a power issue too.
Well, I've tried
phasing?
them. I've tried them in. So I have a Bluetooth to a headphone connector thing for my phone, because phones don't have headphone jacks anymore. And I noticed it on the 3 cables, but not the one on that. From the headphone amp, noticed it on 3 cables, but not the one. And straight out of my DAC, 3 cables, but not the one. So I've done it off of 3 different devices, and it's the same 3 cables, and it's the same volume of sound. So maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll message your brother and ask him about the mini XLR to either 1/4 inch or 3.5 millimeter and say, hey, your website only has one option for this. Where would you recommend I go for the others?
Maybe it's the length.
That's what I'm starting to think. Is there's something going? It's goofy, and it's not like it's really loud, noticeable, except when there's no sound, and then I can kind of hear it.
I mean, the XLR should be good for quite a long ways, so that doesn't quite make sense. But it is also 1/8 inch on the other side at 3.5 mil.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, and, hey, I just remembered something too.
Yeah.
I have to make a correction on something I said last week about my injury counter. I said, what did I say? Oh, I said, I only reset it if there's blood or a broken bone. I forgot about burns. I know this because I I burnt off a section of fingertip Monday.
Now, why would you go and do something like that?
I was trying to push a little piece of plastic off of the nozzle of my 3D printer.
Ah.
And for some reason in my head, I went, I can just flick that off. And I bumped the nozzle with my finger. And now I have a little nozzle shaped imprint burn on the tip of my finger.
Yep. That'll do it.
Yep. I just happened
That'll
to think of that because
absolutely
I went to touch my screen and I was like, oh yeah, that's still stingy. Doesn't work right. I forgot. Yeah. Burns. Also, guess what, Dave?
What's up?
I picked up a 3D printer.
Yeah, I was about to ask about that because that just came out of nowhere.
kind of saved that just for that specific thing.
You bought a 3D printer.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah. It's pretty interesting. What do you need printed?
We are going to have conversations now. Because part of our gardening channel, we've been kind of looking at alternate methods of monetization. I'll put it that way. Because so many people try to rely on either ad revenue or affiliate links, and then they throw their hands up in frustration that they're not making any money making content, especially in the gardening scene.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, because you're relying on the two things that you should never rely on for monetization. Like, those are good to have, don't get me wrong, but if you're relying on those for monetization, then no offense to anyone out there that relies on those to monetization, you're being fucking lazy.
Yeah.
So we're trying to come up with either hacks or DIY modifications for stuff. And for either popular stuff or other stuff, for especially for small form or people in apartments and all this stuff. And so I've come up with some ideas of either custom fasteners or custom stuff for a few things. And I wanted to use 3D printing to print prototypes. And while the library has 3D printers you can use, the library has shitty 3D printers you can use. And that's nothing against the library. It's just they get overused and they're not great DPI. And for prototyping stuff, it's not really that great.
Yeah.
So I might want to use or send some stuff up your way or come up there and we can mess around with some stuff at some point.
Okay. The other thing, shameless self-promotion, but if you look at like what I do with the rad stuff, like I create the content when I feel like it and when I feel like doing something fun, like I've been doing some cooking videos, but that's I sell like cooking accessories, and some kitchen accessories on the website.
Did you sell cocaine or cooking and cooking accessories?
Yeah. So, so I had this stuff on the website already because it was stuff that I wanted either for myself or for a client already that I had found, and I'd found a manufacturer, and I was like, okay, I'll work with you. You guys have a good price. I can make a little bit on it. And I don't charge a whole lot for any of the stuff I sell. You know, like the the monster cleaver I have. I think I sell that for like $20 even. No shipping cost.
Yeah.
And um I use that, and I make content with the stuff that I have just to make fun videos for for myself, really. Like, I'm entertaining myself because I'm making something. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make a sandwich. Or like a few days ago, I made I don't even know what it's called, but you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then
Yeah.
you dip that in egg, and then you fry that like a French toast. So you essentially have a French toast peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And so I did that as a video just because I was like I was messing around. I was like, well, I might as well film this and see what I can do. And I was messing around with some different features in a video editing program on my phone. I was like, oh, I wonder what this will look like. So I was just like, yeah, I'm playing with this, and I made the video, and then I put the video up, and I'm like, okay, link that video over here to this skillet because I use the same skillet. So it's like I didn't. There wasn't a plan. You know, I wasn't like making content to make the money. I made the content for fun, and then hopefully somebody sees it and goes, dang, that sandwich looks delicious. I need that skillet to make that. Like, and then they go to my site and buy the skillet. So
Yeah.
that's something else we should probably get together and talk about, is how I do that and find other products that I don't have to make, because trying to get stuff
Well,
made is a pain in the ass.
and that's the other thing that we were talking about doing, like for different processes, like for example, irrigation and stuff. There's plenty of how to lists and stuff, but no
Mm-hmm.
one is taking these DIY ideas for that kind of stuff and then selling all the stuff you need for a DIY project prepackaged.
Yeah.
So all we would need to do is just buy, cut to length, package, and ship. That's not terrible if you can actually make money doing that.
You're gonna get into my thinking with that has always been is that you're gonna get into a system where you're gonna be putting more work into doing that than what you are doing the promotion and doing the sitting back and not doing work.
No, I know, but you've got to start. Our goal is eventually to no one works and we just do this full time.
Mm-hmm.
And so until you build, eventually, yes, I would like to be able to do it that way, but I don't know if you can start that way. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, who knows?
I think that's something we need to talk about now on the podcast, where we might be releasing trade secrets for
That is
stuff.
possibly true.
Because I'll talk about how I do stuff, but I won't ever talk about who my manufacturers are and stuff. Because I don't want other people to use my manufacturers. So,
No, and that's perfectly fair. I mean,
yeah.
I believe in free information at times, but I also believe that there are such things as too much.
Finders keepers, losers weepers.
I may have been involved in open source ethos for a long time, but I do know that not everything should be completely open source and free.
Yeah.
That is not there's a limit to what you should do and what you shouldn't do, I think.
Yeah.
Because as perfect as it would be to just be able to sit back and go, you know what, this is the way things should be, we still live in a society where money and information is worth something, and you do have to make a living to support families. So
yeah.
as long as I've got family to support, I'm going to have trade secrets.
Yep.
And I'm not giving away just to everyone. If people want to pay me for stuff, then sure, I will do that. We live in a society where money transactions gains information sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that for everything. I mean, there's going to be plenty that I'll share. And I have no problems sharing editing and how to make my voice sound better or editing techniques and stuff like that. But when it comes to other things, I don't want to overshare.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you how we set our podcast up. But
I mean, we've talked at length about exactly how we do podcast stuff.
Yeah, but you could also go to Rad Business Solutions, radbusiness.solutions. Type in podcast and pay $100, and I will set it up and walk you through the whole thing, like in person. So, and that's $100, and that covers you for a year. So
that support is insanely important, because it's one thing to have the knowledge, it's another thing to get it set up. I mean, you know, it even with relying and leaning on your help, I mean, how long did it take me to kind of dial in everything on, even with a little bit of help? You know, it still took.
What year is it? We're 2023.
Yep. We started in 2016, so
yeah, 2017 first episode.
And I mean, I'm still adding and changing and modifying, you know, not as frequently as I was before.
That's what I'm saying. I'll let you know when we hit that.
I mean, I'm sure that I could probably use a microphone upgrade at some point. But you know, for what I'm doing right now in this setup, I think I'm at a point where I'm happy with it. I don't feel like I need to upgrade it. It's now the other stuff that I'm looking at. You know, I've doing a lot of research on video camera stuff for the Growing Fort project. You know, how do I take what I have and slowly build up, versus do you just bite the bullet for a mid to end game product as an investment, knowing that I will get there eventually? Is taking it one step at a time going to cost me that money in the long run?
Yeah.
You know, especially with video stuff. So like I'm thinking ahead and going, okay, at some point 4K is going to be completely standard. It's going to be bog standard. So 4K right now is kind of the goal. Do I
4K is standard, Dave.
Well,
we're at the beginning cusps of 8K becoming thing.
I will agree with you on film. You are absolutely correct. I don't think we are anywhere close to where YouTube or social content is going to be pushed out at 8K for a while.
I don't know. There's a lot of like.
There's a lot of setup for it, but I mean, so what I'm looking at is, okay, do I upgrade my camera? Because right now my mirrorless camera that I have, it will do it sort of plays around with 8 or 4K a little bit, but only at 24 frames a second, which is okay, but I don't necessarily want to mess around with 24 at the moment. I might switch stuff down to 24, but if I'm going to be doing this at any of a consistency rate, I'm going to want a better camera. So do I, do you cough up the money for an intermediary camera at $1,000 or $1,200, or do I bite the bullet and buy the more cinema camera, a 6K cinema camera that I've been looking at from Blackmagic for $2,500? Yeah, it's $1,000 more, but would it be better served for me in the long run? And so that's kind of the stuff that I'm starting to go, all right, what do you do with this? What should I do with this?
You should be planning 4K. Like 4K should be your minimum currently.
And that's where that's where it's going to be, but like the Blackmagic camera I'm talking about will record in 6K.
Yeah.
So if you over record in 6K, you can always go down and not lose anything.
That's what you should be doing with that
6K
camera.
and punch in. So you can do the whole punch in stuff and not lose anything.
Yeah, that's what you should be doing. As if you're using the full screen of the 6K, you should be rescaling that to 4K or using it to zoom.
Yep, because it gives a good zoom. So and that's kind of the thing. And I'm looking at Blackmagic, one, because I already use Resolve, which means the Blackmagic RAW is going to be nice for that. And two, while it has some limitations like no continuous autofocus, which could be a bit annoying at times, I just have to be on top of it for pulling focus.
Mm-hmm.
Now it has an autofocus feature, so you can just click autofocus. So, depending what's going on, but it doesn't have like the face tracking and all that. But the 6K cameras that do have that start at like $10,000. So price wise, that's kind of the intermediary jump in where I eventually want to end up. It's a really weird kind of place to be at, and sounds absolutely atrocious for some people, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm like, all right, if we're going to upgrade this thing, we're going to start pushing out at 1080 so that the stuff that I can do in 4K, I can do a lot of that stuff with. Because I've got a couple action cams that I use for time lapse stuff, and those will do 4K.
Yeah.
But I can punch those in, and I'll figure out the other video side of stuff.
You want to know something crazy?
What's up?
I do all of my filming with my phone.
Yeah, I've thought about that too. There are, even with that, there are some limitations that I don't particularly like. Especially when it comes to filming outside and color grading for stuff. Because filming on a camera, you can't record film raw, which means you're starting with a compressed image, a compressed video.
Yeah. But I'm creating content with no limitations. I'm not limiting myself to, I need this to be perfect. I'm giving myself a balance between perfection and good enough to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the most. And it's funny because I talked about this last night too with Christy. And I was like, there's a point between good enough and perfection.
Yes. And that's
like,
and like, okay, so I have my mirrorless camera, which is an M200, which I like. The other thing I really like about using that is I have the different lenses, which means I can swap out lenses and not have to rely on, you know, it's like an extra step up. And I probably will do a lot with my camera or with my phone as well. But it's kind of like the next evolution of where I'm going, I guess, is what I'm kind of looking at.
Yeah.
I can do most of what I want to do fairly well, but if I'm going to spend money, I'm not spending money to continue to do the same that I'm doing and just upping the resolution to 4K, for example. I want to be able to, if I'm going to take this next step, I want to be able to take this step to make it like the next step in the evolution to add more than just one or two things. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to dog anyone that uses, that records out into MP4, because that's not a, or move, MOVs. That's not a problem at all. And you can make it look absolutely stunning and amazing. I mean, there's plenty of people who have done some amazing videography with either iPhones or Pixels or Samsungs, and it's very hard to see the differences, but it also limits you in what you can do post as well.
Yeah,
not completely, but there are limitations. I mean, it's the same limitations that a photographer gets by shooting with a DSLR versus a point and shoot.
Yeah.
They may take the same image, but sensors start to matter, larger sensors start to matter, how much data you're getting in from light and everything else on the sensor starts to matter. And it's that doesn't mean that you can't take really good stuff with the other. I mean, we've been doing it for years and you can make it look absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
I'm trying to plan 2 steps down the road. Because my vision on the open dark media side is to do more than just YouTube content. I would love to eventually be able to be a freelance videographer for if someone's doing a documentary or they want other stuff done, even weddings. Although I don't know if I would ever do a videographer for weddings. That you have to deal with brides, and that's just not fun.
Yeah, don't. I have DJ'd weddings, and it's awful.
I mean, it was bad enough when I was working at the Masonic Temple, and we would have weddings there, and just working as building manager and security and dealing with them for setup and just, oh man.
I did photography at a wedding one time, and it was awful because everybody else was trying to take pictures with their phones. And this was years ago, before like when phone cameras were decent but not great.
Yep.
And everybody's like trying to get pictures and photos, and so they're like, everybody's clamoring over the top of each other trying to get in and get good pictures when you're the one that was paid to be there with the professional camera and the setup to take those pictures. And everybody's just like, well, no, I need to get my own pictures. Like, no, I'm paid to be here. Take the fucking pictures. You get out of my way. You can get copies of these. Like, you'll get these pictures. in a way better quality than what you're going to have on your fucking phone. So I imagine that's only getting worse. In the
I'm sure it is.
Last wedding I saw, it was just kind of the same way. And it seems like
I think instead of doing like your standard videography and photography for weddings, I kind of have this whole idea of being a one-stop shop for live streaming events.
Yeah.
That's where I think the difference would be. You can have your photographer, you can have your videographer. I think that being able to live stream out an event would be, especially for weddings, I think that would be kind of the cool thing to do. Where I would go in, I would set up static camera shots and try to stay as much away from a free roaming camera out there anyway. Like, I don't know if I would even offer a handheld option for a while and run a live streaming for weddings and other events.
We need to get you set up so we can do it with bands. So we need
bands would be one that would be absolutely amazing to do.
Yeah, because I could feed you live audio.
Yeah, well, anyone can. I mean, anymore, these boards can run. No, because they can run a line out that I can run as a line into a system.
Yeah.
I just have to bring my own DAC.
It depends on the system, because what's coming out from a line out that goes to like your mains and your monitors is not going to sound good over some headphones. The mixer that we use, because I can set up my computer and use it as an interface while also using it as a live mixer. I can run a separate mix on my computer and pull a feed out of that. So I can have a whole separate mix going that would just be audio to you. That would be mixed specifically for a live stream and not for, whereas having it come from like a line out on the mixer would be the same as the output for the mains, depending on how the board is set up.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So we've been talking about photography. I had a photography class in high school. We did like the film development and stuff. We did actual darkroom stuff. I took one of my exams. We had to do like scenery photo. So I took a big picture of a wheat field. My teacher said it was very grainy.
Oh God, Brian.
What?
Oh man. Oh, Brian.
I was trying to get that in before we moved off of video photography stuff, but
yeah. No, that was good.
Yeah, digital boards all work differently, like digital mixers and stuff. The Tascam I have, I can do that with too. I can do two different mixes and send out. It does not work very well for doing live, but it works great for doing recordings and stream. But the Behringer we use, that one it's wild. Like the amount of stuff I can output out of that.
So, question, and I know this is kind of a weird question then. What would be the difference of that and pushing out to what gets pushed out to the speakers? Not monitors, not headphones, but to like the actual what everybody else hears. Wouldn't there be a way to split that signal off?
What do you mean? Splitting off what you're hearing out of the speakers?
Yeah. I mean, you're at a concert, which means everything's running through speakers. Do you have certain things running only to certain speakers and it being routed out? Or I thought everything got routed out to the speakers from a central location on a mixer.
So with our system, it feeds a left and right signal into 3 different amplifiers. So we have a high range, a mid range, and a low range amplifier. And then like the low range just does like the bass, like all the low frequencies.
Okay.
And so then it only gets that signal, and then it processes that specifically for the bass and for the subs. And then like the high and the mid range, those go to an amplifier and then into a processor that get mixed for what we call the tops, which are like there's two 15-inch and one 10-inch cone, one 10-inch what are they called? The rectangle speakers. Shit, my brain turned off again. Anyway, so it depends on how things are set up to route out. Like most of the time, it'll send out signals specifically just for speakers, because you won't want like room sounds in there. You won't really want like reverbs and such, because you're in a room. So you're going to have reverb. And then you're getting super clean signals to each side.
Okay.
So if you like just plugged headphones in and listened to a live mix that wasn't going to speakers, it really sounds kind of disorienting.
Yes, no. Okay. So what if I had a DAC that was kind of my own, a multi-channel input, and was able to pull directly from there and then intermix it into and do the mixing of it for myself that way for bands that don't have a mix out? So if I took those, like you were saying, those 3 signals and inputted them in myself to combine them for a headphone out to push to a stream, would that work?
Mostly what you'd be getting is just a stereo left and right from an XLR.
Yeah. But there's no reason why I couldn't have a 4i4 or a 4i8 or 8i8 or whatever and pull those in to run out.
Well,
I mean, I could push those into Reaper and then output that ASIO signal directly into OBS. It's with the video complex.
It's still going to have a weird sound because it's being processed to go to speakers for live and not processed for like headphone audio. It's a whole different process.
Gotcha.
Going to a live mix from that. That's why there's a lot of different outputs. Even pulling it from like a headphone jack, like if it has a headphone jack on it, you aren't going to have like a proper mix for the headphone jack. You're going to have
you're going to have the flat monitor licks.
Yeah. or you're going to have like whatever the mix is for the room. You know, you might have like a split off from the mains, and like say your room is like real dead sounding in the highs, so you like have to push your high end a whole lot. You don't want to be sending that signal out to a live stream, because then it'll just sing through your headphones, like listening to that on a live stream. And you could try to like tame that in an EQ, but
well, what if then? Yeah,
you would need to almost like
what you would almost need to do is you would almost need a handful of microphones in the room to get the room sound in for the live stream.
Yeah,
because if you're gonna go a live stream, you're not listening to studio. You don't want to listen to a studio album anyway. You want part of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So having really good pickup mics.
Because that's what I would do. Is I would send
a left
you
and a right. So you would find the acoustic sweet spots inside for a left and a right from the stage.
No, I would find you a mono signal like right in the center of the room, and then I would mix all the rest. I would send you a mix that was the rest of the instruments with that built around that signal.
Yeah, I know you would. I'm just saying for other bands and other groups trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to go to, let's say someone hired me because they want to live stream their performance at Deer Park on St. Patty's or whatever. So then I would need to find a place then to set up my own mics to pick up a live environment.
Well, guess who's doing the audio at Deer Park on St. Patrick's Day, Dave?
Oh, you are?
Well, Jason is, so I know I could get you audio out of that. I know I could get you the audio if you needed that, if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I don't have the cameras to do that right now.
Okay.
The cameras, the infrastructure.
We could do that.
I gotta figure all that out still.
Okay.
Because I do know one band I could mess with it with, and that's Mighty McGuigan's.
Yeah.
They're actually going to be playing at Deer Park and JK's.
Yeah.
Because I still need to figure out. Well, one, I don't have a laptop that's capable of live streaming those kind of sources in with any sort of decent quality. And the other one is getting the video signals. Because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to end up going completely wireless, which I do know how to do that in a very interesting way. And that's, I would end up buying myself a router and using it just for internal routing.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be kind of interesting, which would be kind of fun, actually. And then whatever laptop I got would hardline out to for internet wise. But if I use my own router, then I could use stuff like action cams that have a Wi-Fi signal, like Wi-Fi built into them, where it would broadcast out on a Wi-Fi line, and then I can just pull that in and have them as video sources.
So,
or use something with like a wireless NDI.
Dave, I know you keep trying to take control, but what I keep trying to imply is maybe we should team up, because here's the thing: is we also have a router built into the rack.
No, I'm fully in agreement that we should team up.
What we should book is the whole deal. Like, we come in, we mix your live audio, and we send you a live stream to. Like, you just come over and you log into whatever your video service you want is, and we send a live stream out.
This conversation should be taken off the podcast from now on. we are now at a point where we should pull this away from the podcast.
Yep. Free business ideas 101.
Well, honestly, though, I joke with that, but this also comes into decades of knowledge from you and nearing a decade of knowledge for me of combining our two things. I mean, it's one thing to know what's going on. It's another thing to have a trial and error system of what you should and shouldn't do and processes either.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to be able to have the knowledge on how to do it. I mean, I'm sure anyone can go look up how to do it, but it's another thing to have
To have that experience in doing
to
stuff.
have the experience to pull it off.
And
even then, I'm still very green on the video side, but
yeah.
I've also helped a lot of people out with video stuff, so I have more than your average.
I think
bear.
What also helps is I used to like eat mushrooms and then like read books about mixing audio, and I'd like hallucinate the instructions for mixing audio into like massive visualizations in the air while listening to music, which I think has made me some sort of fucking idiot savant on mixing things, because like I hear stuff and I'm just like boop touching buttons and stuff. Like I hear this stuff and I immediately know how to fix it. Like I couldn't describe how to fix it. I'm like, oh, right here, and it kind of dial things in. I do run into hiccups sometimes. We did a show last winter somewhere, and it was like a basement bar, a huge bar in a like the kind of like the basement of a building, and it was all cement walls. Oof. And there was like random frequencies that would just like start bouncing all over the place, and I'd pull them out, but they'd keep on bouncing. And I was just like, "What? God damn it!" And I ended up talking to the head bartender guy that was in charge of the place that night. I was like, "You guys have to put some stuff up on the walls. Like, you have to get some stuff up, because that like." Then I think the issue is they normally just have a DJ in there that's doing, ass shaking bass drop music.
Yep.
Where there isn't a lot of higher end frequencies. So it's not a problem. But you get a live band in there, then you've got, vocals and guitar and cymbals all banging and screeching around. And it was just like, you get two conflicting frequencies going. It was just like, and it would just shoot around all over and start feeding back. And I was chasing that shit all night. But normally I'm like I'm like Rain Man on a mixer for some reason.
No, I think we could have some fun. I think we could do some really cool stuff with it. And I think there's enough I think there's enough demand for that kind of an idea. Whether it's live streamed or just recorded to release later, and not just live streamed on YouTube or Twitch, but like we could, as part of it, we could probably add in some sort of a custom URL or something where if people could buy virtual tickets to watch it.
Yeah.
If they wanted. Because I'm doing the research of what we talked about for you to my server, and me pulling that off has really helped me understand how you could set that kind of a thing up inside of for a website and a web host. So it kind of has built this nice little rabbit trail.
Remind me later, because I think I had a way to build that.
Oh no, well, this is something we're definitely going to be talking a lot more about.
I looked into that for a client one time. Ticket sales for video conferences, like video seminars.
Yeah.
Building what was essentially like an online kind of like an online conference where there was like different people that would have seminars throughout a day, and you could buy tickets like for a whole day or for different parts of the day.
It's a good
That's more
idea.
stuff we shouldn't be talking about on the podcast.
No, we're done with that.
This whole
Speaking
podcast
of the-
has been stuff we shouldn't talk about on the podcast.
Yes, it has. But, you know, it is what it is, right?
That's what it is.
Anyway, I think once again we've managed to do what we do every week. We have an idea and we quickly abandon it.
So we didn't talk about that. See, Dave, we're not emulating Rhett and Leak at all. We're unhinged. We're unhinged.
We're going. We don't need scripts.
Yeah. We're Rhett and unhinged.
Completely and totally.
Yeah.
We will dive deeper into our short system later on, I guess.
Yeah. Well, eventually talk about something we were supposed to.
Eventually, I'm still quickly abandoning the ideas that I had 2 weeks ago that I forgot about last week and completely spaced on this week until now.
Dave,
so I'll keep hinting at it until it actually happens in 2024.
I can't even keep up on researching dad jokes anymore because we get so far into things that I'm like, I have to search them in the middle of the podcast to make sure I have one that's relevant to whatever the fuck we're talking about that day.
Oh boy.
I used to try. That was the only research I ever did was like, oh, I got to make sure I have a dad joke ready to go. And now I don't. I'm like, okay, what are we talking about? Because it's more funny for me now when it is part of the subject matter.
Yep. Well, no, because then it flows nicer.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And that's getting harder with our old age, is getting a nice flow.
Yep. It's too stuttery, more stop and go. All right, Brian. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow, and share, and watch over and over and over again, and then share it again, and then take it over to your friend's house and put it in their face and make them watch it again, but then open their phone and open it and subscribe for them and make them watch it and share and subscribe. And what else did I forget?
I don't know. We have to tell these people that. Fucking simpleton.